Right now, there is money attached to your Social Security and your Medicare that most retirees have no idea is sitting there waiting for them. Not because they did anything wrong, but because nobody sends a letter that says, "Here's the good news." The government tells you when you owe something. It rarely goes out of its way to tell you when something has been added in your favor. And this year, starting this month, 3 separate things are changing in your favor at the exact same time. And almost nobody watching this has heard all 3 explained together in plain English. My name is Hank Mercer, and before we go any further, if this is the kind of information you want delivered to you before the deadlines arrive rather than after, hit subscribe right now and turn on the notification bell. What I cover on this channel tracks Social Security rules, Medicare updates, and retirement planning changes as they happen, because the rules do change, and the people who are subscribed find out in time to act. Now let's get into it. The first surprise is a brand new tax deduction that could mean thousands of dollars staying in your pocket instead of going to the IRS. For years, a lot of retirees have been paying federal income tax on part of their Social Security check, and many of them never fully understood why or how much of it was taxable. This year, that changes for a lot of you. As part of the tax legislation passed last year, there is now a brand new deduction just for seniors, worth up to $6,000 for a single filer and up to $12,000 for a married couple, where both spouses qualify. This is on top of the standard deduction you already get. It is not a replacement for it. It stacks on top. Here is who gets it. You need to be 65 or older by the end of the 2025 tax year, which most of you already are if you are watching a video like this one. If you are a single filer with a modified adjusted gross income up to $75,000, or a married couple filing jointly with a combined income up to $150,000, you get the full deduction. If your income is a bit higher than that, up to $175,000 for a single filer or $250,000 for a married couple, you still get a reduced version of it. It only phases out completely above those higher numbers. Now, why does this matter to you specifically right now in the middle of the year and not just at tax time? Because this deduction changes how much tax should be coming out of your check or your withdrawals throughout the year, and a lot of retirees are still having tax withheld based on the old rules because nobody told them anything changed. If you have taxes withheld from your Social Security payment, or if you make quarterly estimated payments because you have pension or investment income on top of your benefit, this is the year to sit down, or better yet, call a tax preparer and ask specifically whether your withholding should be adjusted because of the new senior deduction. Some of you have been overpaying every single month since January without realizing it. And the sooner you catch it, the sooner that money stops leaving your account unnecessarily. I want to be honest with you about one thing, because I would not be doing my job properly if I left it out. This deduction is temporary. It runs through the 2028 tax year under current law, not forever. So this is not something to build a permanent retirement plan around, but for the next few years, it is real money, and for a retired couple in the right income bracket, a $12,000 deduction can mean over $1,000 less owed to the IRS, depending on your bracket. That is not pocket change. That is a real difference in what you keep. The second surprise involves a wrong that has finally, mostly, been made right, and it affects millions of people who spent years being told they simply were not entitled to full benefits. For decades, 2 rules called the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset reduced or completely eliminated Social Security benefits for people who also received a pension from work where they did not pay into Social Security. This hit teachers, firefighters, police officers, postal workers, and other public employees especially hard. Many of these are people who worked a second job or a spouse's career that did pay into Social Security, expecting a benefit, only to watch it shrink or disappear because of these 2 provisions. That changed with the Social Security Fairness Act, which repealed both the windfall elimination provision and the government pension offset. And here is the part that is still relevant right now, in the middle of this year. The repeal was retroactive, meaning eligible retirees were owed back pay for benefits that had been wrongly reduced. The Social Security Administration has already sent out millions of these retroactive payments, totaling well into the billions of dollars. And most of that went out last year. But here's what almost nobody tells you. Some of these cases were complicated. Survivor benefits, cases involving multiple pensions, cases where records needed to be manually corrected, and a number of these are still being processed into this year. If you are a retired teacher, a retired police officer or firefighter, a retired federal employee under the old civil service system, or the spouse or widower or widower of someone who was, and you have not seen an adjustment to your monthly benefit or a lump sum back payment, do not assume you have already been paid or that you simply do not qualify. Call the Social Security Administration directly and ask them plainly whether your record has been fully corrected under the Social Security Fairness Act and whether any retroactive payment is still owed to you. I have heard from more than one person in exactly this position who assumed the correction had already happened automatically, only to find out their case was still sitting in a processing queue. It costs you nothing but a phone call to find out, and for some households this has meant hundreds of extra dollars every single month going forward. Not just a one-time payment. The third surprise is brand new. It starts this very month and it has nothing to do with your check directly. It has to do with your health, and specifically the medications a lot of you have wanted access to but could never afford. Starting July 1st of this year, Medicare is launching something called the Medicare GLP-1 Bridge program. Now I know that sounds like government jargon, so let me put it in plain terms. GLP-1 medications are the class of drugs that includes brand names like Wegovy and Zepbound. Medications that have shown real documented results for weight loss and for reducing risk around heart disease, diabetes, and other conditions that become more dangerous as we age. Up until now, Medicare has been barred by law from covering these drugs when they are prescribed specifically for weight loss, even though the same drugs might be covered if prescribed for diabetes. That meant a lot of retirees were paying full price out of pocket, and full price for these medications has often run anywhere from several $100s a month, up towards $700 a month. For someone living on a fixed income, that is simply not realistic, no matter how much the medication might help them. Starting this month, that changes. Under the new Bridge program, if you are enrolled in a Medicare Part D prescription drug plan, or a Medicare Advantage plan that includes drug coverage, and you meet certain medical criteria, you may be able to get one of these medications for a flat copay of $50 a month. Not 50% off, $50 total out the door for the whole month's supply. Now, who actually qualifies? This is not open to absolutely everyone who simply wants to lose a few pounds. The criteria are based on your body mass index and certain existing health conditions. Generally, you may qualify if you have a body mass index of 35 or higher on its own, or a body mass index of 30 or higher along with a diagnosis like heart failure, uncontrolled high blood pressure, or chronic kidney disease, or a body mass index of 27 or higher, along with a history of things like prediabetes, a previous heart attack or stroke, or peripheral artery disease. If you have already been taking one of these medications and paying full price, the good news is your doctor can attest that you met the criteria when you started treatment, even if your situation has improved since then. You do not automatically get knocked out of the program just because the medication has already been working for you. Here is how it actually works in practice. Your doctor has to submit a prior authorization request through a centralized system to confirm you meet the criteria, and once that is approved, you pick up your prescription at the pharmacy and pay the flat $50 copay. I do want to flag one detail that matters for your planning. Because this program runs outside of the normal Part D benefit structure, that $50 a month will not count toward your annual Part D deductible or toward the $2,100 out-of-pocket cap that limits what you pay for prescription drugs each year. So if you are already close to hitting that cap because of other medications, this $50 is a separate cost on top, not something that helps you reach that limit faster. This program is not permanent either. It is set up to run from July 1st of this year through the end of 2027. As a bridge to a longer-term plan the government is still working out. So if this applies to you or to your spouse, this is the window to have the conversation with your doctor now rather than waiting, because these temporary programs have a habit of filling up or changing shape before everyone who could benefit gets the chance to use them. Now, before I wrap these three together, I want to give you a bit of extra information that sits right alongside all of this, because it affects your calendar this month whether or not any of the three surprises apply to you personally. This year, Independence Day falls on a Saturday, which means the federal holiday is observed on Friday, July 3rd. Because of that, if your Social Security payment normally lands early in the month, it may arrive a day earlier than usual on Thursday instead of Friday. And if you receive supplemental security income, pay close attention this month, because the calendar creates an unusual situation. Your regular July SSI payment arrives on July 1st as normal, but because August 1st falls on a weekend, your August SSI payment gets pushed earlier and lands on July 31st. That means some of you will see two SSI deposits land in the same month of July and then nothing arrive in August. This is not a mistake, and it is not extra money. It is simply your August payment showing up early. I mention this because every year, people call the Social Security Administration confused and worried when this happens, and it is worth marking on your calendar now so it does not catch you by surprise or throw off your budgeting for the following month. I also want to mention where things stand more broadly, because a full picture matters more than just good news in isolation. Social Security and SSI benefits increased by 2.8% at the start of this year, which brought the average retirement benefit up to a little over $2,070 a month. That was a modest bump from last year's increase. Some of that gain, for many of you, was offset by a rise in Medicare Part B premiums, which increased by roughly 10% this year. So while the overall direction is positive, I do not want to oversell it to you as a windfall. It is real, it helps, but for a lot of households, the Medicare premium increase took a real bite out of the COLA increase before it ever reached your bank account. I also think it is worth being straight with you about the long-term picture, not to alarm you, but because I would rather you hear it from me in plain language than piece it together from headlines. The latest trustees report shows the retirement trust fund is projected to face a shortfall in the early 2030s if Congress does not act before then. If that date arrives without changes, the system would still be able to pay a large majority of promised benefits, but not the full amount. This is not something that changes anything about your check today, and lawmakers have years to act, but I would rather you understand the full landscape than only hear the parts that sound comfortable. Now let me pull the three surprises back together so you know exactly where you stand. First, if you are 65 or older, look into the new Senior Tax Deduction worth up to $6,000 for an individual or $12,000 for a couple, and consider whether your tax withholding needs adjusting right now rather than waiting until next spring. Second, if you or your spouse worked in a public sector job with a pension, like teaching, firefighting, or law enforcement, and you have not confirmed that your Social Security record has been fully corrected under the Social Security Fairness Act, make the call and ask directly, because some cases are still being processed even now. And third, starting this month, if you or a loved one has struggled with weight-related health issues and could benefit from a GLP-1 medication, ask your doctor about the new $50 Medicare Bridge program before assuming it is out of reach financially. I do want to leave you with one word of caution, because whenever real money or real benefits are in the news, scammers follow right behind. Nobody from Social Security or Medicare will ever call, text, or email you asking for your bank information or a payment to release money that is owed to you. The real process runs through your doctor, through the Social Security Administration directly, or through your own tax preparer, never through a stranger asking you to click a link or read them your Social Security number over the phone. If something arrives asking for that, delete it and move on. If you have a parent, a neighbor, a friend from church, anyone in your life over 65 who might be sitting on this exact same information without knowing it, send this to them today. None of these three things require you to already be an expert. They require one phone call, one conversation with your doctor, or one conversation with a tax preparer. That is the whole cost of finding out where you stand. If this was useful to you, hit subscribe, turn on that notification bell, and I will keep tracking these changes as they happen so you hear about them in time to act, not months after the fact.